Привет всем. So, hi everyone. Today is another live Russian lesson. I'm joined here by Vadim, Malik. So, привет, Vadim. Как дела?
Хорошо.
So, in the previous lessons, we looked at a little bit some of the vocabulary words, the nouns that you could use for the friends and family, talking about presenting them, like where they are from, how old they are, what they're like to do. So today we're going to get a little bit more into some verb conjugations. So you can start to look at like two basic groups in Russian, although I think in reality there's a lot of patterns that are used in here. But we'll look at two of these verbs to speak and to understand. And so I'm going to get my screen share here. And you can see the document with some of these conjugations. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see.
Move here. So as Russian is an Indo-European language, we have these this pattern of these six cells, the kind of first person, second person, third person, and first person singular, second person singular, third person singular, and then third person and plural as well. So these would be, can you read through these with the first person singular and then go through the table here?
From first table, right?
Sure, yes, please.
Я, ты, он, она, оно, мы, вы, они.
Okay, so since Russian has the three genders, you have he, she, and basically it, the ano.
Yes.
And in one of the cases in the past tense, Russian verbs conjugate more like an adjective. So it is important, not in the present tense, but at least in the past tense, it's important to know if this first person singular is masculine or feminine, if you're talking about a man or a woman, and also in the second person te, if you are also talking about a man or a woman. So in general, it's just ya ya doesn't change, but for the conjugations later, when you see the past tense, you will need to know if you're talking about a man or a woman. But specifically for the third person singular, you do need to know. Well, at least in the past tense. But in the present tense, you don't have those necessarily like changes based on gender, except for what else would you say here for that? In terms of using t and v, I think t is more for like friends and people you're familiar with that are around your age, and v would be more of a formal. And you would also use v if you're talking to a group of people.
Yes, it's the same word, but it's different meanings. It's maybe plural, but you can use we for one person, which is older than you, for example. It would be singular.
Okay, so I think for people who might be familiar with French or German as well, I think this v might correspond to this vous, which, I mean, in French, vous could be both you formal, or it could be you plural on there. Okay. So we're now going to look at these conjugations here. So this first group, panimat, you can notice that the infinitive here ends with this, and then the myaky znak. This is like most verbs that you will see in Russian will have this ending, this T, and then the soft sign. There are, I think, some exceptions. I mean, not exceptions, but I don't know, like the verb to go, et, does not have this like t miyaki-snak ending. But most verbs that you'll see when you're starting out with Russian will have this ending. So can you read these conjugations for us for понимать?
Yes, sure. For word идти, there is soft sign. Ты идешь. Again. Я понимаю, ты понимаешь, он понимает, мы понимаем, вы понимаете, они понимают.
Okay. So here to conjugate this verb, to understand, we take off this ending, the T and the soft sign. And here we're adding this ending you, понимаю. So you notice on this one, we have the has the accent or the stress in there. So you have this понимаю, понимаешь, понимает, понимаем, понимаете, понимают. And in terms of the spelling, it's important to keep in mind in Russian that you have hard vowels and soft vowels. And what can you explain a little bit about those differences, Vadim, between like an and ya? Because that's an important feature of, I think, of the Russian language, is these two different vowel groups.
Yes, it's important, but it's very difficult to explain. Really, I had experience trying to explain this. The question was why sometimes we need soft sign, мягкий знак. Sometimes we don't need, and it's sometimes it's related to soft vowels and hard vowels. Actually, soft vowels and hard vowels influence consonant before. So if you have, for example, for example, what?
I think like brat and brat, like brother and to take.
Yes, brat. Yes, but we don't have soft vowel here.
Okay. But I guess that'll be a discussion for another video for the Russian, because that's specific to
yes,
Russian here.
It's difficult. I need to come up with some examples to explain better.
But one thing I notice here with these choice of vowels, I mean, there's u and there's u, there's and yeah, there's
yes,
e and like what else? Ya, o, yo, and
yes,
the soft ones have this little bit like of a y sound in front of it. And in these conjugations, you can see that there's the and then there's the soft vowel. So it's kind of like what could be considered like a diphthong. You have this followed by a soft vowel. So you have this you, as you have that little y sound in there, is an yesh and yet. You don't have this kind of u. You have you. And you can see that in here.
Yes, and a very common mistake is to pronounce these sounds like you say now with this y before yeah. Yes, if it's separate sound, it would sound like this yeah, which means me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if it's in word, if you have consonant before, you don't pronounce this like y. For example, мяч.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say мяч. You
Okay.
just say but consonant before M became soft. So
Okay.
compare mama, M is hard, mama, and мяч, M
Okay.
is soft. So it just changes consonant before.
Okay.
It's
So is the M sound in Panimayu, is that a hard M or a soft M?
понимаю, it's hard. Понимаю.
Okay.
If you say понимаю, понимаю, me, it's soft. M is hard.
Okay.
Понимаю, M is hard.
Okay. Yeah, I think these are things I still have to listen to very carefully for the language, because this soft vowels, soft consonants, they kind of they're very important for the pronunciation and also for the listening comprehension. Okay. And one of my teachers told me, in order to learn these verbs, that in general it's important to memorize the first person, the ya, the third person singular, the like on, ana, and the third person plural, like the ani. Those ones generally represent like the three variations that you'd have for the spelling. And if you know the third person singular, the on, ana form, you can get the t and the m and the v form, because those generally follow the same pattern. Like you can see on the second person, you have the sh sound and the miyaki snak at the end here. I'll highlight this. And for the m form, you have the m at the ending, and for the v form, you have like a t e ending. So if you can see the way that the third person is, you can kind of just take off the t and put this sh ending, and you can take off the t and put an m, and here you have panimayet, and then if you add the e, you have the v form. So these 1, 2, 3, 4 forms are kind of you start to get a pattern that works there. But this first form and the third person plural form, the panimayut, there might be a little bit of a spelling change for that. Okay. Let's look at the second group here, or what, like a so-called second group, with gabarit, to speak. So can you read these for us?
Sure. Я говорю, ты говоришь, он говорит, мы говорим, вы говорите, они говорят. And pay attention, говорю, not говорю or something. Говорю, it's one sound, just R became soft. And говорят, not говорят.
Okay.
Они говорят.
Они говорят.
Они говорят.
Они говорят. Okay. Yeah, these are still things I need to work on. But okay. So we notice on this one, we have the E ending. We have this E, T, miyaki snak. And we get a similar pattern here. We have a first person singular has its ending. And then for the T, on, ana, ono, and mue, the v, you have this sh, like the, and the miyaki snak, and then the T, and then here you have the M, and you have the TE ending for there. Okay. And also be careful with the accent marks. The accent marks are not normally written in the language. Those are usually added for the benefit of learners of the language. But if you take a look at newspapers or any text, you will not have those accent marks. It's similar to English in terms of you need to memorize these patterns or look in a dictionary to see where the word stress is. But I would say that after a couple years of still learning this language, working on my pronunciation, the word stress is still a bit of a difficult aspect of the language, and there are a few cases, like my teachers have told me, the verb to write and the verb, I don't know, to urinate, to pee, you have to be careful with the pronunciation there. So like, I mean, it can be an embarrassing mistake if you say like, okay, I write, on my piece of paper, and you end up saying I urinate on a piece of paper. But so you have to be careful with the word stress on there. I mean, and there are examples in English where you also have to be careful between things like desert and dessert, where that changes the meaning. There, in these cases, there's with some verbs you have to be careful about. What else would I say here? Okay, in terms of making the negative of these conjugations, how would I do that?
Just add не. Я не говорю. Ты не говоришь. Он не говорит.
So let me put that here. I'll copy that here, and I'll just add that in here. So it's just this ne.
Не.
Or with I don't understand.
Я не понимаю, ты не понимаешь, он не понимает. Nothing changed, just не.
And if I want to ask somebody a question, I could say like, do you understand me? I would just keep this form and raise my voice.
Change intonation. Вы понимаете? If вы понимаете? It's question. Да, я понимаю.
And to answer, you would just use da. You wouldn't have any kind of auxiliary verb like in English to replace this.
Yeah. No, we don't.
Okay. Is it important when you're making that response to emphasize that you're saying like da, ya, понимаю, or just da, понимаю?
No, it depends. You can just say da. If it's clear from context what you mean. Or you can say да, понимаю. You can say just понимаю. Ты понимаешь? Понимаю. Without да. It can be said different ways.
Okay.
We don't have such strong rules like in English in word order and auxiliary verbs. So it's much more freedom, I would say. In language, you can say. I think like in Italian, you can skip some words if it's clear from
Is it acceptable in Russian to drop the subject pronoun? Is it important to say я понимаю, or could you just in conversation say понимаю without the я?
Yes, you can say понимаю.
Okay. In including the ya, is it more of an emphasis?
I think it depends of context. If you speak about you and you discuss what is clear for you, what's not clear, it's clear that your answer is about you. You just can say понимаю. I don't know. Anyway, if you say понимаю, just form of verb said that you can say this only about you.
Yeah, you understand. Yeah, these forms, these 6 forms are separate enough that you can distinguish what the subject pronoun is. So okay.
If you say about other person понимает, you maybe want to explain who
if it's
is
a man or
about.
a woman. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What else would I mention on here? Also these verbs that we're looking at right now, понимать, говорить, these are what's called несовершенный вид, which is the imperfective aspect. And these verbs these are the only verbs that can exist in the present tense. What can you talk a little bit about their general usage? These are things that are like ongoing activities or things that can happen in the present tense, but they're not finished. They're not definitive.
It's difficult. I'm not language specialist. What do you want me to explain? Don't quite understand.
Or what is a little bit of a difference between the Savershini vid and the nie Savershini vid?
It's perfect or imperfect, right?
Yes.
So, я говорю, I'm speaking. Я сказал, I have spoken, right?
Yeah, I've spoken. I spoke.
I already did it. Have it done. So I think it's almost the same as in English. Я понимаю, I understand. Or I'm. You cannot say I'm understanding, right? Because it's stative.
Yeah, the understand is, yeah, you wouldn't really put that in that.
Я понимаю, I understand. Maybe in process or in general, I understand.
Okay.
Or я понял.
Okay.
You already done this, already understood.
Okay. So what is the verb pair for panimat? What would be the Savershini?
Понял.
Or for the infinitive is ponyat?
Я понял. Infinitive? Yes. Понять.
Like this?
Right?
Okay. Yeah. And for gavarit, this is to speak in general, and to say to be skazat. So I would say when you're learning the language, maybe at the beginning, if you're working with a teacher or so, you might not discuss this immediately to say that you have these two pairs of verbs. But it is important to realize that when you start conjugating these verbs in like past tense and future tense, you'll have to understand that some of these verbs have like a definitive sense that that action is finished, and some of them might be more about like an ongoing process. These are still things I'm trying to figure out and the differences. But for example, if you try to conjugate panyat or skazat in the present, you can't, because you can't have a definitive verb in the present. Like you can't finish an action in the present. It's either you finished it in the past or you will finish it. What were you going to say?
I want to say maybe we don't have this clear difference between continuous form and present simple, because in English it's very clear difference. It's ongoing or it's general meaning. I understand, or I go somewhere usually, or I'm going right now. In Russia, it would be one word, я иду. But yes, совершенный вид very similar to perfect form, and we only have past perfect. I think.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think in terms of conjugating or translating between Russian to English, I think you just have the three tenses. You just have this present, the future, and the past, and you don't have as many of the details that you might have in other languages like Spanish or French or Italian or English. So you place more importance here on this distinction between like kind of imperfective and perfective verbs. These perfective verbs, panimat, gavarit, just exist in the present. and the verbs like skazat or panyat cannot exist in the present. They can only exist in the future or the past. Let me show you a. Can you see my screen now with this website?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a verb conjugator that I built so I could practice these tenses because in these conjugations. So I've put in here. You have these different cases of the ya mushkoi rot is the masculine, and then zhensky rot is the feminine, and then mue, that's the we form. Te, the mushkoi rot is masculine. Te zhensky rot is the feminine form, and then ve, and then the on, ano, ana, ani for the he, it, she, they. So you have all these subject pronouns. You can go through these different forms, and here you see the N, NC, or NS, or NCV for that niese vershinivid, so that's the imperfect verb. And it's, I think you should have, yeah, here, panyat is the savershinivid. If I put that there. So that would be also to understand, but this would be a definitive verb. So if I put that here in terms of the verb tenses that I can only have it in the past tense, proshedshie vremie, or the budshie vremie, the future tense. If I switch this back to the ponimat, where's ponimat? Here, to understand, there I can go into three tenses. I have the present tense, past tense, or future tense. I can have those three. So you do have some limitation on here of those conjugations. But if I do this and I say, okay, yeah, panimat, to understand, and I want to work in the present tense, I could write here, yeah, pani mayu, put the period there, and I will check this, and yeah, that's correct. So you can go through here. There's about 100 or so basic verbs that I've collected from different manuals for studying the Russian language at like the A1, A2 level. So these, and I've added some translations here for Spanish, French, and German to help understand what the verb is. And yeah, you can go through all these. You can also work here making questions. Negative would just be adding the ne. So I'll try this here again. And yeah, nie, ni mayu. And I'll check that. And yeah, that's correct. So for the negative, this doesn't do actual translations like you have on a Google Translate or something, but it's just this translation of the infinitive. So, and if I want to practice with the verb gavarit, so I would go up here to G. Where would I have this? Gavarit, or no? I need to work on my spelling. Here it is, gavarit. Okay, so there's gavarit, to speak, talk, say. I mean, if you're translating it, depending on the context. And its partner for the savershinivid would be skazat. So I've put these verbs in order of like the imperfective followed by its perfective, because most books, they will let you know what the partner verb is. And in addition to these kind of conjugations that you can practice with here, I would again recommend looking at the Wiktionary page. So wiktionary.org, and you can put the infinitive of a verb in here, like for example, gavarit, and it can show me I have the present tense, I have the future tense, I have the past tense. No, sorry, that's those participles. Here, the past tense. So as I mentioned, you have the ya te on, so a masculine form, because it conjugates more like an adjective, and the feminine form, ya te ana, which conjugates like a feminine adjective, and then the neuter ano. And then everything in the plural for mwe, v, ani, you have this form. So as like a plural adjective. And if I show you panimat, you can also get this type of conjugation as well. And this verb, again, it's in present, past, and future. But let me take a verb like, let's say, skazat, which you won't see the present tense here. So let me switch this. So here you don't see a present tense because this verb, as it's a perfective verb, it cannot exist by the nature of this, the notion here in Russian, these perfective verbs, you can't finish an action in the present tense. You can only finish it, terminate it in either the past tense, so you have these examples again, or in these future form on here. And one other thing here, if you notice on this panimat, for the future, we use this verb будет, which this is kind of like a composed tense. You're using this auxiliary verb of like going to, almost like, or will, as if you English, like will understand, will understand. So, and technically, if you look at the skazat, like the definitive, perfective verb, it conjugates as if it were a present tense, but its meaning is future. So that took me a while to kind of get my head around this. Its actual conjugation, it looks like it's being conjugated like a present tense verb, but its usage means I will speak, or I will say, or I will tell for that. So in terms of this website here, this Russian sentence generator that I put together, here you are practicing the spelling and the conjugations, but it's important to also, when you're speaking with a native speaker or writing, realize the usage of these verbs, of how they're being used. I still hesitate a lot of times between should I use the imperfective or the perfective. That takes a while to kind of practice, get right, and there's little notions, little things that are in there that take a while to really get a really good understanding of how these verbs are used. I mean, for appearance's sake, it looks simple. It looks like you just have these three tenses of present, past, and future. But when you scratch the surface a little bit more, there's more details that you need to be sensitive to. So even though it looks simple on the surface, there are little usage notions for that. Do you have any comments? I mean, as a native speaker, it's difficult to kind of express all this to somebody learning the language, but are there things you've seen from trying to help language exchange partners?
I can say only for me, it's don't look simple after the explanation. When you just use it automatically, it seems very simple. But yes, I think Russian has too many different forms and rules. It's crazy. I actually don't really understand difference between я буду говорить и я скажу. I think it's almost the same. It's very, very little. I don't know. I cannot explain.
The difference between я буду говорить and as opposed to what?
Я скажу.
Okay.
Almost the same. At least now, it looks like almost the same. Я буду понимать, я пойму. If you say я буду понимать, я пойму. I think я пойму, it's more, sounds more like your goal. your goal is to understand this at least in the future. And я буду понимать it. Maybe I will understand. Maybe I won't. It's maybe not like clear goal. Maybe this is difference.
Do you have any questions, Hobie? You've been living in Russia for how long?
I don't hear you.
I don't think I hear your microphone yet. Я не слушаю. Yeah, I don't hear you.
Не слышу.
Oh, слышу, yeah. Here's an example of different verbs. Yeah, listen here. So, okay. But yeah, if you have a question, you can write this in the message, and I'll take a look. Let me just switch over, see if there's. Let me see if there's any questions on the YouTube. I haven't opened up the text over there. This is loading. Looks like it's loading. No, I don't see any messages over here. Okay. Go back here. No, I don't see anything. Okay. But if anybody has questions related to these Russian verbs and the conjugations and the usage, feel free to leave a message and or under the video, and we would kind of answer your questions about these conjugations. And it takes a lot of practice. So I would say don't be afraid to kind of make mistakes with this. It takes a while to kind of get your head around the differences. And I would definitely practice using the Italki notebook entries, where you could write a couple short sentences. You could practice a little bit with the verb conjugator that I put together. And then you could practice writing a few simple things like I understand, I don't speak, and what else would I say here? Yeah, I think we can put together maybe some short exercises that would be for some of the basic verbs like I understand, I speak, I write, I read. I think those were some of the basic verbs that my teacher gave us when I got started, like about 10, 20 basic verbs. So I'll put that as like an exercise to go along with this video. But okay, any other comments for today?
Nope.
No. I think this has been a longer video than the other ones we've done, but there's a lot of information to kind of get your head around these conjugations, like get the big picture, and then go in little by little to go for the present tense, understand the present tense versus this other group of verbs, the definitives. So that's usually the way I like to look at some of these things, of not just kind of micro manage like tiny pieces of these conjugations, but kind of get your head around what are you going to eventually have to understand or use in the language, or through reading comprehension, listening comprehension, in addition to what you're able to say or express at the beginning. Because I myself get frustrated as I can only speak in the present tense and I sound like Tarzan. I would like to kind of understand what is the big picture of the language. But, okay, so I think we will wrap this up here for today. And so thank you very much, Vadim, for your insights as a native speaker. And if anybody has questions, feel free to leave them. If you like these videos, please like, share, comment, and we'll have more material ready for next week. So thanks.
Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, it's a pleasure as always to talk with you and to have listeners and people living in the country or practicing this to give us other insights and feedback. So, okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
Пока-пока.
Пока-пока.